it after 2 years, 3 years. That's all possible. There are some specific cases for that, but I will take you through everything so you know all the different ways of getting Czech permanent residence permit as a non-EU citizen. So let's divide it by the years you have to spend here. So we'll start at 0. We'll go through 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. 3 years maybe not, but 5 years and potentially longer depending on your situation. So let's start right with 0 years of living in the Czech Republic. Who can get a permanent residence permit without actually living here? Honestly, there are quite a few options, with the most common ones being these two related to kids, children. If a child is born in the Czech Republic, they don't get, or the children don't get Czech citizenship automatically, but within 60 days after being born, their parents must submit an application for the same type of visa or a residence permit the parents have. So if you are a parent of a child which was born in the Czech Republic and you have an employee card, for example, then your kid have to apply for a long-term residence permit. If you have just a long-term visa as a student or business or whatever when your child is born, your child must apply for a long-term visa. They always must have the same type of visa or residence permit you have. So the same way, if you already have a permanent residence permit as a parent, one of the parents is enough, then your child can, within 60 days after birth, apply for a permanent residence permit right away. So that's one way of getting the permanent residence permit without actually living here for extended period of time, and that's kids born in the Czech Republic if at least one of the parents has a permanent residency. Second scenario is similar, but sometimes women prefer to go back to the home country to give birth for various reasons. The family, or they know the healthcare, or it's a free healthcare or whatever. So sometimes it happens the way that the child is born outside of the Czech Republic, but one of the parents still has a permanent residence permit in the Czech Republic. In that case, the kid can also immediately apply for a permanent residence permit. It's just not done through the Ministry of the Interior within 60 days after birth, but through the Czech embassy. Whenever you are ready, you can go to the embassy and submit the permanent residence permit application for your child. And this applies for up to 18 years of age. So we've had clients who brought their daughters or sons before 18 and directly got them the permanent residence permit as well, which is actually a great advantage if you have a child that is getting to the 18 years of age limit. You can bring them and get them directly the permanent residence permit, which means they can do whatever they want in the Czech Republic and for as long as they want. So that's actually a great option, in my opinion. Then there are some other ways how you can get Czech permanent residence permit without actually living here. For example, if you are, I don't know the exact word in English, but let's say your ancestors were Czech, but you're not, and you want to come here based on this, so you can potentially get a permanent residence permit for this reason as well. And then there are humanitarian reasons, there are reasons of special consideration, and there are reasons where it's in interest of the Czech Republic that you get the PR. I cannot really imagine like where these would apply, but technically it's possible. Now, 2 years of living in the Czech Republic are enough to get you a permanent residence permit as well. If you are a blue card holder and you spend the other 3 years needed for the 5 years in total in some other EU country under the blue card as well. Sorry guys, when I talk a lot and I don't drink, this happens. So let's say you lived in Germany for 3 years under a blue card. Now you moved to the Czech Republic under a blue card. So you can apply for a permanent residence permit after 2 years of living in the Czech Republic, because the 3 years in Germany will count towards Czech permanent residency. So you only need 2 years of living here to get the PR, which is a great benefit of having the blue card. And these benefits also apply in other countries if you have a Czech blue card. And I'm not saying exactly in this way, but there are many benefits for blue card holders. So guys, if you can get a blue card, do it. Just one thing, if you are already in the Czech Republic and you have an employee card, for example, we get a lot of questions like this. Hey, I have an employee card and I would like to get the blue card because I meet the requirements. I generally don't recommend doing it, because when you're already here and when you've been living here for some time with the blue card, with the employee card, it does not really bring you that many benefits to get the blue card. It's better to just like get the PR. That will give you way more benefits, but it's possible. And especially if you can choose in the beginning, if you apply for an employee card, for a blue card, go for the blue card. Anyway, the standard time you need to spend here to get the Czech permanent residency is 5 years. And basically all different visa types or residence permit types count into that. The rule just is that it must be a continuous stay. So there cannot be a break. Like if you were here for 2 years as a student, then you finish your studies and you went back to the country of origin, and then you came back here again now for 3 years with an employee card, then it will not count because there was a break between your visas or residence permits. So that doesn't count to the continuity of your stay. But if you stay the whole time in the Czech Republic, you can change purposes of stay as you like, as long as you stick to the rules that there are for changes of purposes of stay, and you can still get the permanent residency. So it applies to student visa, student residence permits, other visa, other residence permit, business, family reunification, employee card, blue card. Almost everything you can think of can lead to permanent residence permit. There are just a couple exceptions, and that is where also a lot of scams happen. That's the seasonal work or the special work visa, but I haven't seen that in use, but the seasonal work, that's where a lot of scam happens, because those agents will tell you that you can switch the seasonal visa to something else, to an employee card or whatever in the Czech Republic, which is not true. And it's also not possible to like change it to anything or count it towards your permanent residency, primarily because you cannot change it to anything. So be careful, guys, if you are not in the Czech Republic yet, and if someone offers you a work permit for a seasonal work, don't do that. You will be scammed like 99% of times. Anyway, so these don't count towards the permanent residency. Employee card holders as deployed employees. So it's like, if you're deployed to the Czech Republic, then those years do not really count towards the permanent residency. Au pair stays, I'm not sure if I've ever met an au pair in the Czech Republic, but yeah, they cannot count those years towards permanent residency. And then we're slowly getting to the student situation, because student visas and student residence permits also count towards the permanent residency, but they only count as half. So if you study here to be a doctor for 10 years, you will only get exactly the 5 years you need for the permanent residence permit application. So if you study here for 5 years, first bachelor, then master's, then these 5 years only count as 2.5. But this only applies to accredited programs, so like to proper students. If you study some non-accredited program, and then you have the other visa or other residence permit, then the time counts normally. The half time only applies in case of proper students and accredited programs. One thing or one question we often get as well is, if you have a student visa but you are employed, if it still counts as a half. Yes, it does, because you are still a student, you still have a student residence permit, student visa. If you work or not, it doesn't matter at all. If you switch to an employee card, then yes, obviously, because then you will no longer have a student visa or student residence permit, but you will have an employee card, so that will count normally. But if you work or not work, if you have a trade license or not a trade license, as a student under the student visa, student residence permit, always counts as half. But one thing is also what I mentioned it in the during the video, but want to mention it now as well, that you can of course combine the different purposes of stay. The main rule there is that there cannot be a gap in between your visas or residence permits. And as long as you come here as a student, then you switch to an employee card, and you switch to a blue card, then you switch to a business residence permit or family reunification, whatever is the scenario, you can always count those years together. But yeah, the student years only count as half, so you need to be careful about that. And if you actually had some complicated situation like this, that you were changing the purposes of stay, because if you come here under an employee card, you stay for 5 years under an employee card, that's pretty straightforward, nothing really complicated there, when from the perspective of counting the 5 years. But if you've changed the purposes of your stay, you had the student visa, then you had a student residence permit, then a job seeker, then you had an employee card, then a business residence permit, whatever, then an easy way to find out how long you have actually been here is to get something called a history of residence, which is a document that the Ministry of the Interior can issue upon your request. They don't do it automatically, but if you request it, and usually there is some fee like 50 crowns or 20 crowns, something like that for that, then you will get basically a list of all your visas and residence permits with their validities and their purpose of stay. So you will know exactly when your student visa ended, because it will be written there, and when your employee card started. And then you can kind of easily calculate how many more months you might need to stay here to qualify for the PR. And of course, if you need any help with the permanent residence permit application, get in touch. We've done, I don't know, hundreds of permanent residence permit applications, so we'll be happy to help you as well. And let's now see your questions, guys. I'm a non-EU. I'm a non-EU from Malta, working 2 years in order to pick a job. How can I find job in the Czech Republic and apply, sir? So this is not really connected to the permanent residency, so I'm sorry, but I will not be answering this because I only answer questions related to the topic. If you have questions like this and you want me to answer them, become a joiner, and when I finish this live stream, I immediately go to the joiners section and I do another live stream there just for joiners, and then we have like a talk like this where I can answer all your questions not related to today's topic. Hi sir, hey Mustafa. After getting the permanent residency, can we move to another EU country to work and live there? Is there a time limit for this? Is it going to be a problem when applying Czech citizenship after 5 years? Okay, there is a lot to cover, but I'll try to be brief. Yes, when you get the Czech permanent residency, and especially if you get also the status of a long-term resident of the EU, it's like an additional status. I think I've seen it named EU permanent residency or something like that. There is nothing like EU permanent residency, but there is this status of long-term resident of the EU, which is given on top of the permanent residence permit. And if you have this, you can move easily to other countries, but there are some limits, and you always also need to stick to the rules of the receiving country. Because technically, let's say Czech permanent residence permit with this status allows you to move to other EU countries, but those other EU countries might have their own rules, what you need to do there, where you need to get registered. For example, from the other perspective, if you have a permanent residence permit in Spain, for example, and you want to move to the Czech Republic, you can do that, but you have to apply for a special long-term residence permit based on your permanent residence permit in Spain. So you cannot just move here and start working. You have to get like a special type of residence permit for long-term residents of the EU. So different countries might have different rules, and you need to always verify with the receiving country. As for the limit, if you get the permanent residence permit as a standard non-EU citizen, so no EU citizen, no family member of an EU citizen, but as a normal non-EU citizen, then you can live in other EU countries for up to 6 years. But yes, obviously that will be a problem for your Czech citizenship application. Because for the Czech citizenship application, you need to prove where you've been living or even traveling within the last 3 years. And also you need to be well integrated into Czech society. So if you spend 5 years in Spain, you will probably not really be integrated into Czech society. So I would say that the Czech citizenship application will be pretty weak. Let's see. Bro, I'm waiting 1.5 years, appointment Poland, I have work permit. Well, this is not related to this live stream either, but you've been scammed, and if you've been waiting for 1.5 years, you should have probably understood that you've been scammed and just move on, because Czech Republic does not, whatever. Watch any of my other live streams. I talk about it every time. If you've been waiting for an appointment for 1.5 years, should be clear that you got scammed. I have student residence and had a bachelor, and I changed to work visa, and now waiting for 4 months and there is no answer yet. What should I do? Also, this is not related to this topic. So guys, I will, right when I finish this live stream in 2 minutes, I will go to the joiners section and I will have another live stream where you can ask me these like open questions, and I will be answering them there. So if you're not a joiner, join. It's $8 a month and you get 8 live streams with me like this, where I can answer all your questions like in detail as long as it's needed. So become a joiner, and in 2 minutes I'll be there. I will be happy to answer everything. Kumar, how long after staying in Czech can get PR if person going to complete 6 years in Czech employee card and his age is 59? It seems, Kumar, that you have just joined the live stream. This whole live stream was about getting the PR. So when I finish the live stream, it will upload. Just watch the video, and I've talked about everything there. Now, which European country visa ratio high for foreign workers? Unfortunately, not related to this either. Blue card holders can apply for permanent residency after 3 years of stay, or they may need to live here for 5 years. It's actually 2 years. I also was talking about that previously in the video, but it's after 2 years potentially. If you lived in other EU countries for the remaining like 3 years or whatever is missing to the 5 years of total under a blue card. So again, if you lived in Germany for 3 years, you move to the Czech Republic under a blue card, you can be here for 2 years and apply for permanent residency as well. Poland. Okay, if you're waiting for Poland, that's fine, but still, like, if you're waiting 1.5 years, is your life gonna be really that good in Poland that it's worth waiting like 3 years to even get an appointment? Anyway, up to you to decide. In the Czech Republic, if you cannot get an appointment for 1.5 years, you've like 100% or 99.9% you've been scammed. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for being here today. And as I mentioned, I will be going right away to the joiners section, and I will be answering all your questions there. Thank you, and I will see you again Thursday, Monday, until the end of the world. Good night, guys. Good night, guys. Bye.